When a very dangerous cyclops attack the town of an African tribe, the warriors jump into action. They can't stop it with what they know, so they go to a famous monster hunter who is getting ready to fight. But this story has been around for a long time. When he was a teenager, Jack was always in trouble because he was always angry and yelled at people over the smallest things, sometimes to the point of getting physical. His teachers always gave him punishment or extra work, and he had to say sorry to the people he hurt, but nothing was enough to stop him. But it wasn't always like this. Jack was a good boy who lived happily with his family until the day they went camping and lost their lives. His parents were dancing to music on the radio, and Jack and his sister tried to copy them. However, the girl turned and ran into the woods. Then, all of a sudden, a troll showed up and started eating the child. Jack was so scared that he stopped moving and could only watch. When the parents came to help, the troll also ate the mother. The father tried to fight back, but the troll beat him quickly. Just before he died, he told Jack to run. After seeing his dad get eaten, Jack ran as fast as he could and was the only one who made it out alive. Jack is now in his 20s, but he still has a lot of anger that he finds easy to show. He is trying to get better, though. He works as a plumber, is taking night classes to finish high school, and sees a counselor, Silverstein, to help them. But whenever Silverstein asks Jack a question, Jack just goes on a rant, and nothing ever gets better. Tonight, Jack is late to school, which is pretty typical for him, so Professor Crowley isn't surprised. Jack's girlfriend, Eve, does send him notes to scold him for missing most of the class and not even bringing a pen, but Jack is more interested in the other girls in the room. Tonight, Crowley shows the kids what happens when you mix sodium with water. As soon as class is over, Eve yells at Jack for being so careless, and her friend Joan comes over to help with his notes and also to try to get close to Eve. Jack is starting to get angry, but Crowley calls him over just in time to stop him. The professor also tells Jack off for always being late, but what's more important is that he needs his help as a plumber because the pipes in his new house are giving him trouble. A short time later, Jack goes to Crowley's house and meets Waldo, his dog. The house is still being cleaned up, and Crowley says that he got it for a very low price because it has a bad history. Jack goes to the basement to start fixing the lines. When he's done, he asks Crowley to try the sink. Unfortunately, the fixes don't work, and as the whole system falls apart, Jack gets hit in the face by the valve. Outside, the ground is opening up to show something that is shining. Jack tells Crowley that they need to change the valve, so he takes the old part and says he'll be back when he finds a new one. At first, his van wouldn't start, so Jack started to throw a fit. When the engine finally started, it stopped him before he got too angry. Crowley falls asleep at his desk at some point after that. Waldo is outside barking at a hole in the ground that is now giving off a strange smoke. This smoke gets into the house through the back door and Crowley breathes it in. He wakes up and stands up quickly to show his black eyes. Crowley runs through the house in an awkward way and hits the door with his own body a few times until he figures out how to open it. He then runs to the yard, even if it's raining. Crowley wakes up the next day when he hears Waldo barking at him. He is surprised to find that he fell asleep in the yard and that his hands are dirty as if he had been digging. He has no idea what happened last night. When he turns around, he sees that he had been digging all along. Crowley is interested, but the hole isn't very deep yet, so he runs to get a shovel to finish what he started. Crowley keeps digging until he finds the broken pipe and a strange box. He then chains the box to his truck and pulls it out of the hole. When the box is brought to Crowley's office, he opens it to find a human skeleton inside. He gives Waldo a leg bone, then looks more closely and is shocked to find a black heart still beating inside the ribs. Waldo barks at it, but Crowley still picks it up and tries to stop it from moving, but all this does is make his fingers sticky. Then, all of a sudden, his hand moves on its own and pushes the heart into Crowley's mouth, making him swallow it all before he passes out. In the meantime, Jack goes to the hardware shop to get a new valve. The office worker, Howard, is shocked to see that the valve is a type he hasn't seen in years. When Jack tells him where he found it, Howard is scared. He tells the boy to come back tomorrow for the new piece and tells him that he will tell him the story of the curse on that house. Crowley wakes up with a burp on the floor of his office. He can't stop scratching his chest and is very hungry, so he goes to the fridge to see what's inside. He tries the lettuce and spits it out, but he loves ham and milk. It seems like he only wants to eat animal goods. The evening comes, and Jack is on time for class. Crowley, on the other hand, is late and looks like a mess. His clothes are dirty, he burps and scratches his chest all the time, and he still has food in his hand. When a student asks him if he's sick, he laughs and says a few words. Then Crowley goes to the whiteboard and starts writing nonsense, which makes everyone laugh right before he throws up all over the board. Crowley tries to wipe it up with his sleeve and then decides that class is over for the day. Joan tries to flirt with Eve again when they are outside. When Jack walks by, Joan tells him he needs to be nicer to Eve and tells Jack to take it easy. He won't let Jack leave until they talk. Jack hits him in the throat when he gets mad, and now he has to drive Eve home while she yells at him for being violent the whole way. Crowley also goes home, but he brings fried chicken with him because he can't stop eating. Waldo won't come near his boss, and every time he sees him, he barks. Crowley doesn't pay attention to him and goes to find more food, but he stops when he feels something strange in his stomach. A bump on his shirt starts to move on its own, and all of a sudden, a tentacle grows from his body. Crowley grabs it with both hands and fights against it until he can find a pair of scissors to cut it off. After that, Crowley looks in the fridge, but all that's left are veggies. Crowley goes after Waldo because he won't stop barking at him, so he can eat him for dinner. The next day, Jack tells Silverstein that he thinks he should move to another country to start over. Silverstein says that Jack is just trying to avoid his problems and that they should talk about what happened to Jack's family. Jack doesn't want to talk about it because everyone makes fun of him for saying he saw a monster, and he still feels bad about running away. Silverstein says that is why Jack is so angry, he can't forgive himself. Later, when he needs the new valve, Jack goes to see Howard. Howard starts to freak out again, and after a strong drink, he tells the story. When Howard was a little boy, he moved in with his Uncle Emmett in that house. This man was a researcher, and as part of his job, he went all over the world to gather things. A black heart in a glass case was one of the things he brought back from Japan. Little Howard was very interested in it. The tale said that a demon had come into our world a long time ago to spread evil among people. The monster was killed by a group of men, and the heart of the creature was kept as a trophy, but it was said that evil still lived in it. It changed hands and shops a lot before Peter bought it in an old shop. Howard was looking at the heart one night when he dropped the box and broke the glass. Later, smoke started to seep out of the box. It got into Peter's head and turned his eyes black. Like Crowley, Peter started acting strangely. He felt hungry all the time and ate enough to feed a small country. Little Howard was getting scared, so he looked in the box and found nothing. Later, Howard heard noises outside and went to see what was going on. He found Emmett eating their dog. Emmett bit Howard when he got close and ate his hand. Howard was scared and was able to pull his arm away. He ran into the house and looked for his uncle's gun, which he used to kill him. Howard then put Emmett in a box and buried him in the backyard. He thought he could still hear the heart beating. Jack doesn't understand how a kid could pull Emmett into a box and dig without a hand, so Howard shows him his hook replacement to show him. Still, this isn't enough to make Jack care, so he pays for the valve and leaves. Later, at school, Jack tries to make up with Eve for what happened last night, but all it does is start a fight that ends with Eve asking if they should see other people. Jack doesn't hesitate to agree to the breakup, which makes Eve angry because he was ready to get rid of her so fast. When they walk into the classroom, Crowley is sleeping on the desk, and blood is on his arms. Two students drop a heavy book on the table, which wakes Crowley up. Crowley walks around still scratching his chest and looking confused after he belches. He also throws up again, and as his stomach rumbles, he loses control of his arm. When a worried student comes up to him to see how he's doing, Crowley pushes her away, hurting her. Then he turns around and shows that he is spitting blood and has a huge growth growing on his chest. As Crowley falls to his knees, the students run away in fear, and Jack makes sure to help the hurt girl get away. His body starts to change into something very ugly, and limbs grow out of his back. He sends them down the hallways to catch the students. Jack, Eve, and the girl hide in a classroom. When a tentacle tries to get in, Jack shuts the door just in time to cut off its tip, The other students aren't as lucky. The arms grab them and pull them back, even if they get hit by something. When the students are brought back into the classroom, they find that Crowley has turned into a nasty beast that has left goo everywhere. On his strange body, you can see his black heart beating. Joan is his first target. He throws him to the ground, and then Crowley puts one of his tentacles in his mouth and fills him with poison. A moment later, Joan stands up and says he's also a monster. Crowley tells him to find the missing 3 while he takes care of the next student. While this is going on, Jack is trying to tie the door shut with wires. Eve keeps freaking out because she thinks they should leave and not lock themselves up, and Jack gets annoyed by Eve's constant yelling and the girls crying over a small cut. Joan bursts into the room at that moment. Eve tries to run away, but the other girl can't keep up, so Joan grabs Eve. Jack tries to save her, but he can't. When he sees that Joan is eating her, he leaves, too. While Crowley sends out more students who have been changed, Joan finds Eve in a different classroom. Jack gets there just in time and hits Joan with a stool before grabbing him. Eve took off. Another monster is waiting outside, so the couple runs down the hallway and finds that all the doors are shut. The cleaner is on the other side. When he sees them, he agrees to open the door, but he takes his time. This gives the monster time to catch up, and when the doors are opened, the monster jumps on the janitor to eat him too. Jack and Eve run to Jack's van, which doesn't start right away. Eve yells at him for driving a bad car, which makes Jack even more upset. Even worse, the radio starts playing the same song that was playing when his family died. Jack stops the van all of a sudden because he can't stop thinking about what happened, and Eve yells at him for it. Jack gets angrier until he finally loses it, but this time it's different. He is angry but doesn't hit Eve when he tells her to get out of his van. He then goes back to school. Jack wants to make up for the mistakes he's made in the past, so he gets all of his plumber tools ready to stop the monster. In the hallway, Jack sees 2 students who have changed fighting over the body of the cleaner. As soon as they see him, they both attack him, and a fierce but unfair fight starts. Jack pushes the boy away long enough to hit the girl in the head with his pipe and kill her. Then he goes after the boy and punches him over and over until he falls to the floor, where Jack stabs him with a tool. Crowley, meanwhile, is getting hungry again, so he starts to eat one of the kids. Jack starts to go find Crowley, but on the way, he runs into Joan. The chase goes through the school, and Jack throws anything he can find at Joan to protect himself. But Joan doesn't feel anything and gets close enough to Jack's arm to bite it. Jack hits him in the head to get him to move away, and then he breaks the lab equipment to kill Joan with it. After that, Jack puts tape on his wound and grabs a fire axe. He runs into his classroom where Crowley is making more monsters. Jack cuts the tentacles with the axe so that the kids can get away, but before he can finish, Crowley attacks him. Jack tries to hide under a table and throw his axe straight at Crowley, but nothing works. Now, a newly changed student is also attacking him. Crowley throws away the axe and laughs as he watches Jack and the monster fight. His laughing stops when he sees Crowley break a cabinet door and use it to kill the monster. When Jack opens the closet, he sees the sodium from the last class and remembers what he learned. He rushes to get it right before Crowley grabs him with a tentacle and pulls him closer, and Jack uses the change in position to put the sodium in the monster's mouth. Crowley is so shocked that he drops Jack as he tries to spit out the salt, but it bursts and takes his head. But the heart is still beating, so the tentacle is still controlled by the heart, and Jack is caught again. This time, Jack gets his axe back and cuts off the limb. He then runs to the monster and attacks its heart, killing it for good. All of the tentacles fall off, and the other students run away as Jack walks up to the last girl and kisses her. Jack has changed because of this experience, and he now knows that monster hunting is his calling. He goes back to the forest to kill the troll who ate his family, putting an end to the problem. Then he starts his journey. He has been facing monsters all over the world, and now he is in Africa, ready to save a village by fighting the Cyclops. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more movie recaps, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. See you in the next video.